Hey, one of the best parts of my role as network director for 4N is to look after, for want of a better word, the 4N ambassadors. The ambassadors are a really important team who help visitors understand how 4networking works, help them get the best out of their first meetings, and help them understand how to be part of this brilliant network as well. So I've decided to introduce you to the 4N ambassadors, and I'm starting with Mark Northall of marknorthall.com, who's been a 4N member for over 10 years. Back in the real world, he was a 4networking regional leader, and now he's both a host and ambassador based up in the Midlands, but with some niche groups to talk about as well. So I'm going to introduce you to Mark Northall.
Um, Afternoon, folks. I'm with Mark Northall of marknorthall.com. Actually, Mark is the very first 4N ambassador I'm speaking to as part of this series, but also probably one of the ones that I've known the longest, because I'm trying to think, Mark, how long have you been a member of 4N?
Joined 4N in 2011, in February 2011. I know that because the old site used to tell me so. 9th of February 2011 I joined. That was my first meeting. I probably joined the week after because I didn't join straight away. So, but yeah, February 2011.
I know I was at some of your early meetings. I remember being at some of them up in Birmingham and bumping into you. You were always taking a lot of photographs. That's the first thing I remember about you.
Yeah, I think we did have a very visual presence in the Midlands, and I think working with the then regional leader and a couple of the area leaders I've got to know, they sort of relied on me a little bit to start taking photographs, and we got the images out there, and I think that's really important. And it was important for me as well, establishing my business in the first instance with the social media stuff going on there.
Because your business wasn't your business is primarily social media now, but it wasn't when you joined 4networking, was it?
That's correct. I mean, the first badge, and we've all got these nice little badges that, in fact, mine disappeared somewhere online, which is a bit of a mute point. But that actually had the words DAB and HR on, because when I started off, I fully intended to take some of the stuff that I'd taken from industry with me to be a HR consultant. But I'd always got this hankering there to do a little bit more on the marketing side. And HR tends to be bad news. Apologies to any HR people out there, but it was always I was the guy who was brought in to make people redundant and to give them bad news and things like that. And you know, I couldn't go through life like that, to be absolutely honest with you. Whereas obviously marketing's a whole lot different, and it's usually good news. So that was a decision-making process that went through it. Plus the fact 4N kind of dragged me into a direction where the social media was concerned. In that it dovetailed really nicely the social networking with the face-to-face networking.
I think that's what so many people don't get. And you started spotting that early on, that social media was effectively an extension of networking, or networking was an extension of social media, whichever way round it was. So was it the skills that you were picking up as part of your 4N role that then led to that business changing, becoming what it is now?
I think you're absolutely right. I met a lot of people in 4N who gave me advice, because I mean, there's always people at 4N who want to give you advice. I think that is absolutely true. And as long as you take the good stuff and filter out the stuff that you shouldn't really be listening to, I think it's a great tool to actually develop your business. And you're right. I joined a team very early on. I became having said that, I was the worst marketing coordinator ever, I think. The point when I joined, I think it was 4N Dudley at the time, or morphed into 4N Womben. And we probably lasted about 10 meetings after mine before we changed again. But I found my niche really as an area leader. And then latterly, thanks to yourself, actually, I became a regional leader.
I was going to say, picking up on your earlier point, I think having been a regional leader myself and now network director, I think it is fair to say that lots of people give me advice, and some of the time it's not advice that I really want to hear. It's a lot of the time it is, to be absolutely fair. So for a quick commercial break, just explain to people exactly what it is that you do now at marknorthall.com.
Yeah, I mean, we are basically a social media agency, in which case we look after people's social media. What I say at the start of every 40 seconds is it's social media management, strategy, and coaching. It's that type of three-pronged attack on social media. The vast majority in the day-to-day stuff is managing people's accounts. There's myself, there's my wife, there's my stepdaughter, so it's a family business, and we're out there sort of doing that. I enjoy the training side of things, and that sort of branched out because of 4N actually into a sort of a semi-speaking type role as well, where I get asked to speak at all sorts of things. From I think I've done a women's institute once, right the way through to speaking at some local expos that 4N have been presenting at. I've actually been given the opportunity then to actually speak at those expos on social media. So it's been a really good tool to bring things along for the business. But we've evolved. We've evolved from being just me looking after a few people's social media to being an agency where we can now be a little bit more picky and choosy who we want to work with. Fortunately, there's not too many people we don't want to work with, which is always a bonus. But I think the business itself has evolved as my journey through, and I think this is not uncommon for people, as my journey through 4N and my journey through literally my self-employed life.
What I've always thought is interesting about you and about your business, paying attention to it, is that I still spot, where are we, 12 years since social media really became a thing, and I still spot some people who are quite scared of it, and you genuinely seem to come at it with a very sort of down-to-earth, common sense approach. You don't what's the word I'm looking for? You don't overcomplicate things. You make it easy for the normal business person to get to grips with. That's what I've always loved about your stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, people do overcomplicate social media. At its base point, all social media is a conversation. And that's what you need to do, engage people in that conversation, which leads to, face-to-face meetings. I always say social media, if you're selling something, will get you the interview. And then it's down to you to get the job in person. I think people need to embrace that and not think they're going to go out on social media and get a whole load of sales based on it. They just need to advance the sales process by however many notches it's possible they can do that on their own social media.
Now, that I wrote the words, every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. And I wrote that for my first book, and it's been used by Full Networking since. So I'm really interested to hear you talking about conversations. In your opinion, how does social fit in with actual networking then?
I think you can't divorce the two. They are intertwined. One of the standard things that I do, and I've actually given this out as networking advice, which is good, sort of, because I'm talking to you as well, is that people should connect on social media once they've met face to face, or in these trying times we're in at the moment, as an extension to the meeting as we're meeting at the moment online. I think you need to have that connection with people. You need to be able to tag people in conversations if you think that it's relevant to them. You can talk to somebody, you can have a one-to-one, and let's face it, 4N's unique selling point is those one-to-ones, and those one-to-ones can take you so far. But then I think you need to extend that conversation, whether that be a one-to-one outside of a meeting, as we used to do, or a Zoom meeting, or indeed if it is just literally exchanging messages on WhatsApp, on Facebook Messenger, on LinkedIn Messenger, whatever it is. It's having that opportunity to connect the two. You can't divorce the two. I'm not going to name names, but I've had a conversation even this week, and we're only at the beginning of the week, with someone who said, I don't want to be on Facebook. It's not something that's for me. But having said that, it gives people the opportunity. If somebody wanted someone in that field, and they can just literally drop, and let's face it, we're all a little bit lazy that way. If we can just drop a tag into a conversation on Facebook, on LinkedIn, even on Twitter out there, it's dead easy just to drop that tag in rather than have to find somebody's contact details, send them an email, send them a message. Much easier to go, someone's looking for a social media person, and we'll type Mark's name in, my name appears, and then I'm automatically told about that. I think people are missing the joining up of the two things, really.
I think what you say about we're all lazy, that's something that I trade on a lot, and I love what you said about it, because I've always tried to presume that everyone else is lazy, and therefore, not in an insulting way, maybe presume that they're busy rather than lazy would be a better thing to say, and therefore make their life as easy as possible for them. So, Brad, who owns 4Networking, talks about making it easy for people to buy from you, removing all of the hurdles to people buying from you. I think if people are in business and aren't on Facebook, for example, it really does feel like they're missing a trick these days.
You'd absolutely. I mean, I think Facebook, as much as it's a social network for, as somebody once said to me, I don't really want to know what people are having for their lunch or their evening meal. You know, that's what I'm going to find if I go onto Facebook. But you need to make it very, very easy for people. You need to give them the easiest possible way of giving you that referral. You know, it doesn't have to be a slip filled in. It doesn't have to be, sorry, that wasn't meant to be a dig at any particular organisation. It can be as easy as just putting that tag, and that's what you need to make it easy.
My photo of what I was having for Sunday lunch yesterday has currently got 96 likes and 14 comments. When you were saying that, I was thinking one of the most recent things I posted was me having Sunday lunch.
Right, yeah.
And that's what on earth has that got to do with what I sell? But it's continued the conversation going with a load of people.
Yeah.
And a number of the people who have commented are actually clients or associates of mine along the way. So yeah, actually, I know you were saying it as a joke, but actually putting what I was having for my tea yesterday has kept the conversation going in a silly way, as well as posting, you know, the fact that I was on holiday, as well as throwing in some networking advice along the way. I think all of this stuff adds to the colour of who we are. You just said something about choosing who you work with these days. And I think something else about doing that is that it attracts the right people to us. It attracts the people who are going to get on with us, to working with us.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you know, I think there's a tendency when you first start in business to accept anyone as a client. And I'll say that now openly from, 2011 onwards. I was sort of, if people could pay their bills, as far as I was concerned, I would work with them. But there are people you enjoy working with, and there are people I think that over the past years, there's less and less have gone along, and I now have a great bunch of clients that I would handpick almost. But I think you need to be the right person to work with somebody, and you need to have the strength to say to people, I don't think this is going to work. I remember working with a guy, and he took me to lunch. I remember it really, really well. It was we were sort of, and this was when I really had started to think, 2014, that for 2015, I really need to be choosing who I work with. And he took me to lunch, and it was a nice lunch, and we'd been out. And after it, I actually turned to him and said, I don't really think this is going to work, is it? And he actually looked at me and he said, well, no, he says, I like your company, he says, but I agree with you. So by doing that, I saved a relationship that could have easily have gone sour. And I think if you choose the people that you want to work with, you'll always have better results, whether you're trying to do their social media or whether it's just on a personal level, getting the right message at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I've had some of those as well, and the wrong message to wake up to in the morning. I think you need to have picking the right clientele is really, really important.
So you and me are a certain age. Do you think some of that comes with a bit of age and experience and confidence, being confident enough to turn away the money sometimes? Do you think that's part of it?
I think it is. And sometimes by turning away some money today, you can double your money tomorrow. And I think that's important for people to realize that the universe has a way of actually dealing this for us, that we can actually turn away from something when we really there have been times, and I'm sure everybody's had that. I know Brad's had that, when there's been times when you just haven't had enough money, and you've had to sort of go, and I've had to go to the wife and say, can you pay for this month because I'm going to be a little bit short. But then to have the courage to say to people, well, I don't think me and you are going to work. You can save a relationship that may further down the line involve them recommending you to somebody else because you've been so honest about it.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's any shame in taking the money, particularly when you're early on in your career, as we've both done. But that's a really interesting evolution to me to listen to you saying that.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, you've said a load of stuff in there that I think is going to be really valuable to people. From your point of view, you've stuck with 4Networking for a long time now. What is it specifically for you about 4N? Because I think with both you and me, it hasn't always been plain sailing. You've just talked about the fact that there's been points along the way where maybe you weren't making enough sales, you weren't making enough money. So yeah, I guess why have you stuck with it? why have you stuck with it all these years is the best question.
Well, I think Brad himself says, sort of 10, 11 times he's wanted to quit. And there's that iconic photograph of him with Terry Cooper, where he was about to quit at the business show, I think, down in Excel. That they had there, and I think we've all had those thoughts, and I think if anybody's saying out there that they haven't, then they're really not they're being economical with the truth, shall we say? And I think for me, the people have always been the deciding factor. I mean, the fact that you can pick. How many other places could I pick the phone up and speak to people like Brad Burton, and I know he would take my call. When I've had issues, I've done this. I've spoken to people like John Rain, people like Terry Dorr. You already mentioned this in the preamble. That Terry Dorr is probably one of my best mates now. Forget 4N, he's probably one of my best mates. Because basically, if I pick the phone up to Terry, he's the sort of guy you don't speak to maybe for 6-8 weeks, maybe longer. And then you can just pick the phone up to him and it's like you've never been away. And I think there are lots of people like Terry Dorr in 4N. And it's strange. I always call 4N the Hotel California of networking, because basically you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. And I think it's a thing that people do come back to 4N. People have come back into my life now that have left 4N 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they're back again now. And there are people that have gone that I know will come back, because it's that type of network that attracts people, and it attracts people because it's a place where you can belong.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up so beautifully there. When I joined 4N, I needed that, having come out of another career where I had workmates and I had people around me. And you know what it's like when you leave a job, you always say you're going to go for a drink, you're going to keep in touch, and you don't. And I needed that feeling of belonging somewhere, belonging in a community. I mean, we've talked for a little while this afternoon, and I'm going to wrap this up in a second. But I'm probably putting you on the spot here. But what would you say is your biggest networking tip for someone who joins 4Networking, for someone who maybe has come out of another career before they come to 4N? What would be your biggest hint or tip or advice for them?
I would say to concentrate on making the relationships rather than trying to do as many more meetings than you can. The great thing about 4N is it gives you the opportunity, and I've seen people do this, and they network themselves out, and they'll do 5, 6, 7 meetings straight off, and they'll do that. But to be honest, I think you need to work on the relationships, get a couple of regular groups, then add some more into it. And do it gradually, like a mix, and don't burn yourself out too quickly. Because I think I've seen people who've joined 4N who basically have gone to 5, 6, as I say, 7 meetings straight off, and then disappeared. You need to pace yourself, but you also need to build those relationships.
It is a marathon, not a sprint, isn't it? It's.
Absolutely.
I think just the very fact that you and I have been showing up for 10 years or more, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes having a couple of weeks off. But that consistency of us being there, I think that's made a difference in itself. As you say, not burning ourselves out at the beginning, but keeping going for the long term, as you say.
Yeah, definitely.
And then if anyone spotted a slight disturbance then whilst Mark was talking, that was because Brad Burton was trying to phone me, and I'd forgotten to turn off notifications. So if the screen went black for a second there, that was what was going on. Before we go, Mark, you're both a host and an ambassador for 4Networking. What groups are you host for? Where can people find you if they join 4N?
Yeah. They can find me on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock. I do South and West Midlands and Shropshire. And then in the afternoon at 4 o'clock, we've got Sensational Staffordshire, the one and only Dave the Heffernan group leading there. And then on a Wednesday in the evening, we've got the Sports Health and Wellness group, which is a niche group that we launched that's gone really, really well. And I've got Carl Ford leading that one for me. And then we've got Birmingham on a Thursday, which is a 10 o'clock meeting in the morning. So any of those are regular ones. We've got a pop-up meeting on the 29th as well, which is for outsourcing, VAs and the like. And I've got Michelle Hibbs coming back to do that. So I'm rather pleased that we've managed to do that.
Yeah, talking about people who've been away and come back, it's lovely to see Michelle back. I spotted earlier on that Dave Kitchen has rejoined For Networking from a bit further north than you, up in Cheshire as well. So yeah, you're right, these people do come back. And what you've just said, I mean, when you were in the real world as a regional leader, you had geographic groups based in the Midlands. But this online world has enabled you to set up these niche groups and pop-up groups and that sort of thing. That to me has been an incredible opportunity, which it's horrible period for the world, but it's enabled us to do things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is exactly what Brad said. What does the situation afford you? What can you do because of where we find ourselves? And the fact is, I love online networking, and I can't see it never being part of my life, even when we go back to face-to-face networking. I think we do need to maintain some sort of online networking, online presence, simply because people who I've never met before, I've managed to meet while I've been doing this. When I've got connections in Scotland based on these online meetings that I would never have met. And some of these people, we're going to be doing business, and it's a great opportunity.
As a director of For Networking, I can be completely clear. Online networking is here to stay, and face-to-face networking is coming back as soon as it's safe and appropriate to do so. Mark, where can people find you online? Where would be the best place for people to connect with you after this?
Yeah, head over to the website at marknorthall.com, because all the social leads are there. All the social accounts are actually on marknorthall.com. So probably the easiest place to find me.
Thank you for taking time out to speak to me this afternoon, and actually to find out a little bits and pieces about you that I didn't know, actually. So it's been interesting for me to find out about you. And thanks as ever for being a 4N supporter. I know you've been around for a long time.
Yeah, and I'll be around for a while, yes.
You will. Thanks, Mark.
All right.